Hey folks, thanks for hanging in there. Really excited to be on the call today. Obviously, today is all about business insights, analytics, and how you can use that to fine-tune your support business, but not just support your entire business. And so let's just kick it right off. As with all Salesforce presentations, a quick safe harbor. We are a publicly traded company, and as such, we ask that you base your purchasing decision on currently available technology. My name is Elvis Greer. I'm a product marketer here at Desk.com, and I'm very pleased to introduce Brooke Lane, who is our Director of Product Management. He runs our entire Business Insights Analytics division here on the product end, and he's going to have plenty to say in just a short while. So let me just start, for those of you on the phone that may not know about Desk.com. I'm sure we have a lot of customers on right now, but for those of you that are unfamiliar, really quickly, Desk.com is just an amazing out-of-the-box application specifically designed for fast-growing companies to provide amazing support. So what does that mean? It means that our average customer gets set up in about 2 days, and that's without IT, without consultants. Literally anybody that knows how to use a web browser and is connected to the internet can get this thing up and running. Working smarter and faster means that even though Desk.com is out of the box, it's simplified, it's also very, very powerful. We designed it specifically so anybody can use it, anybody can make it do what they want it to do, but it has a lot of automations. It has a lot of powerful tools that really at the end of the day mean for you as a small growing business that the people you have in place to support your customers, they can do a lot more with a lot less. And so that means instead of maybe hiring more people or being stressed out with the people you already have, it just makes it a lot easier for your current team to be a lot more productive than they normally would. And the whole measure improvement part, that's what we're going to focus on here today. I think an often overlooked feature with customer support software, especially for people who are just getting started, is the analytics portion, is the insights portion. And this isn't just for digging into spreadsheets and getting really analytical about this. The analytics part is actually out of the box. It's, with Desk.com, it comes with pre-configured reports, very, very easy to use dashboards, and all this is intended for anybody, regardless of your knowledge of analytics, to go in and have a very, very high level but yet effective viewpoint of your business, not only how your support team's doing, but what your customers are saying about your business and your services. And so with that information, you can make some really, really powerful decisions very, very quickly. And that's what we're going to dive deeply into now. And so with that, I'm going to kick it over to Brooke to take us the rest of the way. Brooke?
Good morning. Thank you all for attending. My name is Brooke Lane. I'm Director of Product Management over here at Desk. I've been with Salesforce for about 3 years. And we've really invested heavily in the generation, collection, and presentation or visualization of data so that our users can get as much information out of our system as will allow them that will help them make really good decisions within their organization. And one of the things we'll talk about is how you take that information outside of your customer support organization and really become highly valued throughout your company. So I always like to start these conversations with discussing how your company should view support, because I'm of the opinion that most of the people who are attending this are within the support organization at their company. But let's look at the conversation around how your organization should view your support organization, how your company should view your support organization. And I say that your support organization is the most customer knowledgeable team in your company. And how can we look at that? How can we identify that? Well, they certainly are there to do things like capture and identify issues, right? We all know that. They have these continuous interactions with your customers. They understand things like the frequency of issues and severity, but they're also there to do things like discover areas of opportunity. And this is kind of an untapped value that a lot of support organizations don't organize around. They are sitting there with their customers, listening to them all the time, and they understand things like feature requests that customers are giving to them. They'll even be able to help you identify things like complementary products that your company might be able to offer, or partnerships your company might be able to get into to increase the value that your organization provides to your customer base. They're there to interpret the customer's language, right? In terms of things like understanding customer priorities, they certainly get that, but they also do things like they figure out how to quickly and effectively communicate back to your customers. And that's information that can be shared with your sales organization and your marketing organization. What are those words and phrases and terms that your customers use and that you can use back with them to really show them the value of your organization or to help them understand what your company has to provide for them? Fourth, they manage the emotional well-being, right? Obviously, they project an empathetic ear, but they also have this kind of implicit trust. When you go and send an email to a support organization, you're saying, I want you and I believe that you will be able to help me with my problems. And that's a terrific springboard from which to continue to develop a relationship with your customer. And finally, they're there as a marketing / sales / support organization in terms of externalizing your company's voice. They start by doing things like assuaging the emotional discontent your customer may have, but what they do is, what they have the ability to do is actually turn that into an opportunity to build evangelists for your company. So if you provide great support, you're very likely to have somebody who is much more emotionally connected to your company and therefore much more likely to converse about you, whether that's in a public forum with friends, families, and acquaintances, or even doing something like sending a tweet or posting on Facebook something about your company. So how do you help your organization manage all of these great things? Well, one of the things we give you is the ability to translate this stuff into metrics, right? So what are the things that you really need to be able to be aware of from a data standpoint to allow yourself to capitalize on all of this opportunity? Well, you want to obviously be able to manage performance, see how efficiently and effectively your organization, your support organization handles customers. You want to be able to do those things like quantify those most frequent issues, things that we need to go fix, and then look into opportunities that you can identify. You want definitely to be able to allow customers to support themselves. When we talk about a support organization, we're not always talking about emails and phone calls and chat sessions, but we're also talking about self-support. And then you definitely want to attach, when possible, emotional connections to these support interactions that you have. So how do your customers feel about the interaction that they've had, the support that they've gotten from you and your company? And so, again, as I mentioned before, Desk has invested heavily in data management. We generate it, we collect it, and we present it to you in a way that hopefully allows you to utilize it effectively. And one of the things that we like to do is to put it in a format that allows you to democratize data. What we'd love to have you do, or the stories we'd love to hear, is that Desk analytics are not only used by an analytics team, but a team lead can say to themselves halfway through the day, boy, it seems like a particular issue is causing a spike. So I'd like to go in and poke around through Desk analytics and see if I can't find some more information about that, verify that, and then escalate it appropriately through my product team if necessary, or my engineering team. So we do things like give you dashboards for real-time feedback. We give you performance reports to understand how your agents and groups are performing against inbound call volumes. We want to give you identifier reports to understand these issues and opportunities, and then allow you to do things like filter your data very easily to look at different time frames or different parameters so that you can narrow down your area of focus easily and quickly.
Hey, Brooke, let me say one quick thing. I just want to answer a question that I know is going to come up, and I should have answered it in the beginning. So we're recording this presentation. So if you have colleagues that are unable to attend, or you yourself have to kind of like bow out a little bit early, no problem. We will send all of the registrants a link that will give you a recording to this very presentation. And there's going to be plenty of time for questions and answers at the end. So please just continue whenever to put your questions in the box, and we will take care of those Q&A at the end of the presentation. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Elvis. All right, so let's talk first about how we help you provide the right answers quickly, or help you understand whether you're providing the right answers quickly. So a growing organization, and we love these high growth businesses, but your growing organization needs to continually drive efficiency. And what we want to enable you to do is to have a key set of metrics that you can look at over time and against, across groups or agents to allow you to see how your productivity is, to look for patterns in activity, to look for your things like your most demanding customers, and to identify spikes in seasonality, and to do all of this very quickly, and again, in a way that's easily repeatable, so you can go in day after day or week after week to find this information. So how do we do this? Well, kind of the key themes that we've organized reporting on when we're talking about productivity reporting is that the information is logically organized, that we give you tools like the dashboard, which allow you near real-time feedback, so a very quick understanding of the dynamics of data as it changes over time. Things like the overview report, which allows you to track data over time, and then the ability to go down to the performance of your groups and the performance of your agents very easily. And then we do this by utilizing support metrics based on industry standards, because we know that very often people in the support world talk to each other. You go to seminars and you attend webinars and you meet other people who are managing support organizations, and so we give you things in easy to interpret and commonly used methods and metrics, so that you can discuss your particular organization with others and walk away with key learnings.
Hey, Brooke, you brought up a really good point with knowing this information in near real time. And so since it's the beginning of the year, I think a good analogy is performance reviews, right? Everybody that has a job, we're all well aware of performance reviews, and your average company is probably going to sit you down maybe one time a year and talk to you about how the previous year went, right? If you work for a great company, maybe you're doing those meetings more often. So that, as you can tell, for most businesses means a tremendous lag in the data that is collected versus the feedback in the time it takes to actually implement decisions based on that data, right? So can we take that and show the difference in why we would want this data for a support organization in near real time, and what the benefits of having this type of data in near real time actually enable you to do?
Yeah, and I think it goes down, that's a great point, Elvis, and I think it goes down to that democratization of data. If your contact center director, for example, is a very busy person, they've got an entire organization, let's say several managers and a bunch of team leads and a bunch of agents to monitor, watch, and they're managing themselves upward as well as downward in the organization. If you can take that data and that reporting and push it down in the organization to the manager, to the lead level, even to the agent level, and allow people to make these comparisons themselves, to understand what's going on, to see how they're performing, both quantitatively and qualitatively, using as much data as possible, then they're going to be receiving that continual feedback. They're going to be able to hopefully manage their smaller teams or manage themselves as individuals to improve performance.
Thanks.
So let's take a quick look at some of our key reports in terms of productivity. First thing I'm showing you here is the dashboard. We're very excited about this. We launched this early last year and have continued to invest and evolve it over time. You can see here that we give information that's just very easy to digest, and we make this in a form that you could even push it up to a monitor over your contact center so a lot of people can see what's going on. So you see we have metrics like cases by filter, like case volume by channel, how are my channels coming in today. I've got a top agents widget here. I've got labels and macros and custom fields, top labels, macros, and custom fields that have been applied today. We allow you to create additional widgets. I've created a widget called mobile labels, right? I understand that my mobile support right now won't appear in my top labels because my mobile support is much smaller than my regular support, my email support, for example. But it's very important to me to understand those dynamics. So I can create a widget and place in that widget those mobile labels, and then the top mobile labels will just appear in this mobile labels widget. So it's easy to create additional widgets. I can create widgets for teams and for agents. I have some time to first response data, and then active cases by age here. And then what I've done at the top, I've placed a special widget at the top, which is what I'm calling recent CSAT scores, and it presents the last 100 CSAT scores updated continually throughout the day. So the new scores will come in on the right, and the oldest of the scores will pop off the left. But again, it gives me kind of just an understanding of how my support organization is performing today. And it's particularly interesting if something goes wrong and you start to get customer dissatisfaction that you might want to respond to very quickly.
Hey, Brooke, I love that you can actually customize this, right? Because no support organization is the same. We're all going to face different problems. Like you said, if mobile is something for your business, you definitely want to create a widget to bring in that data. For those on the phone that may be brand new to dashboards, can you talk a little bit about what is a widget in terms of how it relates to a dashboard?
Good point. A widget, any one of these little units of data is a widget. And so I can go in, when I want to create a widget, I can create a widget on labels or macros. I can create a widget specifying, showing specific groups or agents or custom fields that I use. Customer satisfaction. So I'm able to create one of these little data tools, and each of them is called a widget.
Thanks for explaining that.
All right, moving over to the overview report really quickly. Again, I mentioned this is our time-based report. It is right now showing the last 7 days by day. I can see my channels, an email channel and a Facebook channel, and I can go in and focus on either of those. And then I've got, as I said, these common metrics: created cases, number of cases resolved, average handle time, and I've got actually a second panel of data, inbound interactions and outbound interactions I sent, and so on. And then we can also, go to our agents reports and our groups reports to show how our agents are performing, and number of resolved cases by agents and replies per resolve and handle time. What these reports also allow you to do is drill down. So I can see that Brooke Lane has resolved 34 cases. If I click on this, it will actually generate a second report showing all 34 of those cases. And then what I can do within that is to sort by handle time. So let's say I feel that Brooke's time to resolution is very high, right? I want to understand what that is. So I click on those resolved cases, sort them by time to resolution, and then I can see maybe the 4 or 5 cases at the top of the list that are causing that metric to be very high. I can sit down with that agent and say, okay, let's look at these 4 or 5 cases and see if the issue is something with the product, something with process, maybe something with training, maybe documentation that you're lacking, and hopefully improve upon that. So the ability to drill and drill and drill and then focus on the true core problems is very much enhanced with having these abilities.
Hey, Brooke, really quickly, do we have time to show actually what drill down looks like here?
Sure.
And how you would actually use that? Because, I mean, that is a huge differentiator for us, right? There's a lot of analytics tools that will show you the top-level data, but you don't really know what data is making that bar go so high, for example.
Right,
so I think it would be really valuable to show some of the people on the phone here.
Yeah, so I'll just click on this resolved cases. It's going out into our data system and grabbing those 34 resolved cases, collecting all the data. And one of the things it's collecting when it does this is a link to the case itself. And so, again, not only do you have the ability to look at the drill down of the metrics associated with that case, but you have the ability to look at that case. So we go over here. I'm going to click on time to resolution. And you can see, well, again, this is kind of a funky system, but most of my cases are in the 1 to 2 to 3 minutes. There are a couple at 18 minutes, and then there are these really anomalous ones, right? I want to understand why this bizarre time to resolution is so high, right? Why has this case been sitting in my backlog for so long? So I could actually just click on the case ID here, and then that will bring up the case in Desk. and I can go through the history and the interactions and the timelines, and I can really figure out why this case is giving the metrics it is, and what I can do in the future to be more on top of it. So maybe this is a case that just got lost in my backlog, and maybe one of the things that I can put in place is a reminder system that says if a case is older than 48 hours and hasn't been attended to, then it is increased in priority in my filter.
That's pretty cool.
All right, let's move on. So that's productivity, but productivity is only one of the many things that we want to do. The true value-generating proposition for your support organization is to identify issues and opportunities and get those out to the rest of your company. So the best thing that you can actually do in your company is very often run down the hall to a product person and say, hey, here's a problem. Or run down the hall to the engineering team and say, we seem to have a bug in this area. Let's figure out what it is and stop it as quickly as possible. Or go to a vice president in the organization and say, our customers are showing us that there's opportunities in this area. Maybe this is something we should go capitalize on. So what are we looking for? Who is reporting issues? What customers are reporting issues? What issues are driving support, both from the standpoint of number of cases as well as time to resolve those cases? So what questions cost the most time? What are those issues that are most expensive in terms of escalations? And then what are those issues that are most likely to cost you in terms of several interactions? Because multiple interactions generally mean a lower customer sentiment. And so having something taken care of in a single interaction quickly is obviously preferable to having a back and forth with the customer in most cases. So what do? Well, we organize information utilizing custom fields and labels, and I'll flip back over to my demo site and show you what this is in a moment. But allowing you to identify using custom fields and labels then allows you to go into our Desk.com labels report and custom fields report and show and identify what is trending or what is causing you problems. So we'll just jump right over to labels and custom fields and macros. Let me bring up this case. So you can see here's a case where somebody says, where do I see my order history? And so we have a couple of labels that were automatically applied through Desk, because we have the ability to apply labels based on a number of parameters as the Desk case comes in. But I say, where do I see my order? And so we have some labels here, and maybe I want to see, maybe I want to add a label. Well, adding a label doesn't exist right now. Adding a label is as easy as typing it in, right? I've now created a new label called website, which all of my agents will be able to use now. And again, it's as easy as that. So I want to, I'm able to expand the tool utilization as an individual, which is really important. We have custom fields here. You've got a custom field called language. And then what I've created here is one of our features called dependent dropdowns. So let's say this is a mobile call, and we have this field called mobile operating system. I'm going to select Android, and you'll see that's going to generate a couple of additional fields. So I click Android, and two more fields are created, manufacturer and carrier. When I select manufacturer Samsung, it now generates this field mobile phone model, and then I can fill that in, and the cell carrier I'll specify as Verizon, and my contract term is 1 year. So, presenting information in a logical way that allows the agent to quickly and easily input it as they're going along is very important. But now you can see that I have all this information. Not only do I have this original email, but now I've got all these labels and all these custom field values that I will later be able to utilize. So at some point in time, I may be a company that contacts Verizon and says, we have these types of issues coming from our customers using your product. Let's work collaboratively to figure out a solution to this. And then when you go to the labels report, you have all this information about your top labels. So I can I can look at what's driving context. You can see there are it would appear 6 labels that create most of my contact types, Wi-Fi and delivery and return exchange. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you're able to filter this stuff. So I've got a filter here. I've got a custom field value called country of origin. So I might say, let's just look at the country of origin United States. And when I apply this filter, then these values will be filtered for just the U.S. context. And you might see that setup is my top issue in the United States, and that might cause me, that might kind of incent me to go and create some additional mechanisms that help those U.S. customers get set up more easily.
Hey, Brooke, do you have to create filters in dashboards and reporting inside the Business Insights app, or do you actually go into Desk.com admin and create these filters just like you would a regular case filter?
No, it's done right, and we do it within the Business Insights. We just we allow you within the filtering to filter on all of these available parameters, so channels and groups and agents and labels and custom fields, priorities, etc.
Great.
So all this stuff is available to you for you to use right out of the box. All right. Let's talk about self-support for a couple of minutes. So self-support, and I have it here, self-support is the least expensive and continues year after year to show the highest in customer satisfaction. If I can help myself through a quick search of your site, then I can have my problem resolved very quickly, hopefully very easily, and without having to reach out to you and wait for an interaction, even if it is something on an immediate channel like chat or phone. So we really want to promote the use of what we call content or knowledge in your organization. And so what are you looking for in knowledge? Well, you want to be able to see what articles are being viewed by your customer most and least, what's being rated by how customer content is being rated, and then how your agents are using content as well. And this is all in the context of being able to effectively manage the information on your site. Again, we want you to have a lot of information out there, right? We want 10 articles is better than 5 in most cases, and 200 is better than 100 in most cases. But when you get up to that 100 and 150 and 200 articles on your site, you need to be able to understand what's performing and not performing very quickly, so you're not having to overmanage this channel. So actually, here's a screenshot of a report, but I'll just jump right into the demo and show you what this looks like. So our content report looks like this. It shows each of your articles, and then you've got all this information which you can sort: number of article views, the ratings on those articles, how many of the ratings were positive, how many of the articles have been applied to cases, how those articles have been presented as deflection and clicked as deflection. And this is that little modal that pops up when you're in a contact center where you type out an email and you click send, and we pop up this little modal that says, before we send this to support, you might check out one of these 3 articles. So we show how many are presented as deflection and how many of those are clicked by the user as deflection. And then we show this really important metric called updated. Right? We might have an article that's not performing well from a rating standpoint, but if you see that it was just edited yesterday, you might just give it some time to rest and see how it performs over the next month, and then whether it's shown in the support center. So this is really valuable information, and the thing you can do too is, like, of course, flip all this stuff over. So I can look at number of views, and I can look at my least viewed articles, and I can say to my support organization as we go through this information, why aren't these customers finding this important information? Is it because the article is misnamed, is not appearing on keyword searches? Do I have to edit the article a little to make it appear on the searches the customers are making? Is it irrelevant information that's just no longer a part of our company at this time and should be deleted? So you can hopefully manage articles by looking at the bottom performing or the bottom viewed just as easily as the top viewed. And then the final thing we'll talk about today is customer sentiment and how your customers feel. And we look at customer sentiment in terms of transactional on the interactions they're having, and then at a broader level about what insights can we get about your customers' feeling over time. So the first thing we have is our customer satisfaction tools. So we are looking at how satisfied the customer is with the interactions they've had with you today or the interaction thread they've had with you over a particular issue. So you gauge the value of the interaction, again, in the eyes of the customer, and attaching an emotional sentiment value to this really improves your understanding of the customer's, the impact of this issue with the customer. We also give you the ability to solicit additional feedback regarding this interaction. And then we give you things like easy-to-use visual indicators, and we push this information across desks. So you see it in the agent's report, the customer satisfaction per agent, and you also see it in things like the labels report. What's the satisfaction people apply to issues with particular labels? And so what does the customer see? Well, the customer gets an email from your site that looks something like what you see here on the left side, and they see the simple set of smileys, and they click on the one that's most appropriate to how they're feeling, and then we pop up a page that has the ability to say, what additional information can we get from you to make your life better? And that can be very specific to the interaction, or it can be a broader question, and I'll show you that in a moment. Actually, we'll flip right over and show you that right now. So here's how you set up your customer satisfaction survey in Desk. And one of the most important things we did when we built this tool was to allow you to create the question. So I wrote a question, how satisfied were you with the resolution you provided today? But what we encourage you to do is to tailor that question as much as possible to the tone of your company, the tone of your brand, and what you want to project to your customers. Then we give you the ability to choose how frequently you want that customer satisfaction score to go to your survey to go to your customers. We allow you to do a 2-point or a 4-point scale. And then that additional question, again, can be very transactional. Could we have done anything better with this interaction to make you happier? Or a broader thing, which is how can our company better serve you in the future? And then, as I said, we have transactional customer satisfaction, and then the other thing that we have is what we call this customer health monitor. And this customer health monitor is a low-touch indicator that gives you some insight into how a customer might be feeling. So you see this little panel on this screenshot right here that says customer health, and it says poor. Well, all you see in most cases is a little color indicator right by the icon for the customer there in the lower right corner of the icon. We built this system with the expectation that 80 to 95% of your customers are green. The normal state of things is that they're healthy and happy, but we want to give you some insight into what's going on when they may be emotionally compromised. And so when you see a yellow or red indicator, you simply mouse over that indicator and you can see which of the parameters has moved from green to yellow or green to red. And so the interesting thing that we built within the system was the ability for you as the organization to tune this to your particular customers. So you might have customers who have very few or very frequent interactions. You might have customers who have a lot of cases in the last 60 days, or that may be a very rare thing for customers to have. So by enabling you to tune it, and I'm going to flip over to that screen right now, by enabling you to tune the parameters, and you get to adjust this to make sense for your customer, your company, and your customer base. So you simply see the case interactions in this one are 3 and 9. Tickets in the last 60 days, I've identified these thresholds for good to average and average to poor, and I can adjust these with a simple click and a text change. And so again, when you go over to a case and I see that this customer is red, I can mouse over. I can see that there's something about open customer cases which has exceeded a threshold that I put into the system. I can quickly click on my customer history right here. I can see all their open cases, and I might, at the moment of this interaction, be able to solve multiple cases. I might be able to merge cases if they're on a like topic. I might be able to address the fact that they've got other cases that are in a pending status with the customer. And so I'm a much smarter agent for doing this. All right, that's it for the content of my presentation today. I'd love to hear some questions from you, Elvis, and from customers.
Yeah, so we have a lot of questions, which is awesome. This isn't an easy thing to grapple at first. Obviously, there's so much you can do with dashboards. And so I will say to everyone on the webinar right now, there's so many specific questions that there's no way we could possibly do your questions justice here on the call. But I'm going to take the ones that I think will have the most value to the most number of people here. And then I promise that we will specifically get back to all of you who asked more detailed questions after the webinar. But there's a big, and I think this is just a standard industry-wide problem as well, not specifically to Business Insights, but there's a lot of factors in the real world that can throw off average handle time, right? Let's say you email somebody, they don't get back to you, maybe 2 weeks later a customer gets back to you. So technically speaking, that agent has gotten back to that customer rather quickly, but if it's showing the total time from open to resolved case, that might throw off some of these reports. Now, Brooke, can you talk maybe not specifically about that issue, but issues like that and what you can do as an organization to get around those anomalies with average handle time and how you can best utilize, I'd say, the purest data and kind of know how to throw away the data that may be misleading?
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the most common questions is what should average handle time be? And the answer is lame because I'm going to tell you it is what it is, right? It's what your agents determine it to be with their performance. But there are ways to tune and definitely ways to improve upon handle time and most importantly, ways to identify what's causing those handle time anomalies so you can figure out how to improve handle time in specific areas. So what we allow you to do, what we like to do is to give you data that allows you to find what normal is, what the majority of your cases are with respect to handle time, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And then the number of interactions that create that, because obviously there are a couple of things that you can do. You can reduce the amount of time that an agent is looking at a specific case, and then you can reduce the number of interactions the agent has with the customer. And you can do that through a number of mechanisms. Find your best performing agents, right? If you can find the best performance and model their behavior and train your other agents or your lower performing agents how to perform like the best agents or move their performance toward that of the best agents, that's obviously a big thing. Understand, right, the dynamics of things like new agents, right? What does it cost the organization when they have a new agent, and how long does it take for a new agent's performance to increase over time? And you can do that through desk reporting. Understand what issues are causing the most troublesome or the longest handle time. Again, labels and custom fields allow you to find those issues. And the thing that I've found, the thing that's common across support organizations is the 80-20 rule. 20% of your issues will cost you 80% of your time. If you can drill down on those 20% of the issues, find those poor performing issues, then you can improve handle time across the organization and save yourself from having to hire agents. It allows you to go out to the, as I said, the product team or the engineering team and fix things so you don't have to work with customers on those things. And it allows you to do things like create additional content in your help center that customers can find and click on very easily so they're not coming back to you. It also allows you to do things like utilize, and I haven't spoken a lot about macros, but macros are kind of a canned way of performing a lot of operations within Desk that enable you to work much more productively. So I can create a macro that sets labels, sets custom field values, attaches a particular knowledge article to a case, and actually puts in a message to my customer, which then takes a case that might have taken 3 or 4 minutes to a sub 1 minute handle time.
Thanks, Brooke. What about business hours? I know we have the ability to kind of set that up, generally speaking in Desk. Can you filter out non-business hours when it comes to average handle time?
So I think we're talking about time to resolution, not handle time. Currently, we don't have the ability to, we obviously have the ability to look at things like when cases come in relative to handle time. We actually have an open project that we want to address that's for handle or business hours, and then doing the filtering that you mentioned, but we don't currently have a business hours filter that allows you to say, okay, let me look at time to resolution in terms of number of business hours or minutes in the business day.
Great, thanks. Let's actually, if you don't mind, there was a lot of questions around like how to do things that you were doing. So can we maybe show the folks on the phone, like how do you create a widget, and how do you maybe create a few filters so they can see that as well?
Sure. So go back to reporting. Let me go back to the dashboard here, and I'm just going to create a widget that shows me a team. Let's say I've got a team of 6 agents. So I simply clicked my, let's do that a little more slowly, click the little plus symbol up here in the upper right corner. I'm going to select that this is an agents widget, and I'm going to call this team 1, and I'm going to select the agents who are in team 1, and then hit create the widget, and it creates this widget at the top. I'll drag it down into my dashboard, and now I've got a team 1 widget, and none of those agents have responded to cases in the last today, so it's not showing anything. But as soon as those agents started to handle cases in the day, then those agents would be presented in this widget. So it's really as easy as that, and you can do this for labels and custom fields and macros and agents, and you can do things like you can create customer satisfaction widgets for, maybe I'll create a customer satisfaction widget by group, and I'll put all my tier 2 groups in one widget and another one for tier 1 groups, and so I can kind of look at the performance of tier 1 and tier 2 from a customer satisfaction standpoint, understanding that the CSAT dynamics generally differ between the more upset customers who go to tier 2 and the general customer who is handled in tier 1.
Okay. There's a lot of questions around exporting data. Do we have the ability to export any of this data in dashboards?
Yeah, so we definitely have that ability. If I go to a report, let's go back over to the overview report. I have this export tool up here, and I can export this as a CSV file and then take it over to any one of a number of other analytics tools that I might be using, anything from Excel to advanced business insight solution.
Awesome. What about notifications? Can anybody, much like a case is routed to another agent or maybe even a manager for that degree, when these reports or the dashboards hit a certain threshold, is there any ability to notify people based on that data?
So we don't have the ability to do like an outbound email notification. One of the things that we've started to do, and we're listening to our customer base right now in terms of the evolution of this, is notifications on things like the dashboard. So you can see here on the dashboard, I have this one inbox, which is red. Well, I'm simply able to go inside this and say, if any of these filters reaches a certain value, then show it as a color. So my cases is right now 102. I can go into my cases and set it at 100, and now the next time this dashboard refreshes, which is in probably in the next 1 to 2 minutes, it would show this as red because I'm over 100 cases. So we've got some thresholding in here, and as I said, we've kind of released this very recently and are listening to our customer base in terms of where they want these additional parameters to be, allowed for them to get this information in terms of when thresholds are exceeded.
Awesome. Another question that's actually coming up quite often is around the different reports that we offer. Now, I know ostensibly some of these can look very similar in what they offer, but can you go through maybe, since there's only a few, just by each report and say, what you would recommend as like a best practice for that report?
Yeah. So really quickly, our overview report is our time-based report. It shows information over time, and so you can set things like, let me set this up for the last 90 days, and let me show it by week. So I'm looking at contact volumes by week over a 90-day period. So it's very easy to do that. Is our time-based report. Agents and groups reports are broken down obviously by the group level and the agent level. I showed you our labels report. Let me close this really quickly. I showed you our labels report. It shows the top labels that have been utilized by your support organization or applied to your cases automatically through our business rules. And then custom fields is the same way for custom fields. What you'll find is, as I gave you that example, you use these reports very closely together. So I might run this labels report and then filter it by this custom field, country of origin, United States. And so that works very nicely. We have this advanced report called segmentation, and it actually allows you to combine two segments. So I could say, let me look at labels and custom fields on labels on the y-axis and custom field values on the x-axis. So I might say, instead of just looking at a filter for a single custom field, country of origin, United States, I could say, let me put on the y-axis all my countries of origin, Japan and Sweden and Germany and the United States and Brazil. And then on the x-axis, I want to put 10 labels that I think are interesting, and then look at those against each other. And we do that through this little drop-down for segments, which again, it's 2 segments. And then finally, we've got a companies report that shows you information by company, and our content report, which I showed you, which is your knowledge information.
Great.
Permissions. There was a question here on permissions for the dashboard. No, we don't currently have. We have business insights permissions. So if there are certain access levels that allow you to see business insights, but those generally allow you to also do things like adjust, add and delete widgets and that kind of thing. So we don't have specific permissions for dashboards themselves.
Okay, thanks, Brooke. And there's actually a few questions around customer health monitor. So you showed the ability to track a customer's health. Now, can you talk about how you identify who that customer is, and also, can we track the health of a company? So if there's multiple customers, let's say, can we actually add those together to track the overall health of the organization they work for?
So yes, we do have the ability to look at company. I don't have, again, my particular example. This Brooke L is not affiliated with a company, so I don't have, I can't see the company. But what would have is what you would see is an indicator at the company level, and the indicator is really an aggregation of the customers for that company. And so you'll see if particular customers in that company have gone into, if their parameters have gone into a yellow status or a red status, and so you have that ability to see that.
Okay. Now, I know there's a few more questions on here that may be a little bit too specific to answer generally, so I might have to get back to this. So let's see here. Yeah, so for the remainder of the questions, you guys have some really great questions. I'm definitely going to make sure that we reach out to you specifically to handle these questions because, again, there's just not enough time on this call to give you guys justice and what you deserve as an answer. So that being said, we will take this into consideration. We're going to get back to you guys, but we really appreciate you joining us. To repeat again, this webinar is being recorded, and I will send out a link, or we will send out a link to you in the next few days with a recording and the presentation. So if you have any additional questions, you can always follow up, support@Desk.com. Otherwise, thanks again, and we really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks, Ellis.